Welcome back, and in the previous lesson we built out our navigation bar, and this is our first set that we looked at in order to build out what we had originally designed when we started the course. So we've got our navigation bar done, and the next step was to create a header area, and this is where we're going to have a background image. So let's set that up now, and we're going to set up a background image that's going to sit in the background of this particular header area. So let's open up our editor, and we already have our placeholder all ready to go. So that's our head there, and within here we're going to add container. So this is going to be the default that we're going to be using for most of these sections, where we're going to set up the Bootstrap default container area, and then within the container is where we're going to hold all of our content. So it's usually a good idea, in order to keep things uniform so that we have everything aligning properly, that we use that same structure whenever we're adding content within our web page. So the next thing that we need to do is let's do a really simple grid. So Bootstrap is all about grids, and grids are an excellent way to help lay out your content better using Bootstrap. So we're going to set up a row, because in order to So basically the grid works like this, that you've got a container. Within the container you can have a row, you can have multiple rows if you want. Each row has, by default, the grid structure has the 12 columns. With Bootstrap 4 we've got some more options as well for columns, and we can center those columns as well. So if we don't have the offsets anymore with Bootstrap 4, so let me show you how we can center the column. So the first thing that I wanted to do is create our column, and we're going to do it on MD. So we're going to do column MD8 and close that off, and then within here this is where we're going to have our content is sitting in here. So the first content that we're going to have, let's add in our heading here. So this will be a div class, and so we had a few options. We could do display as well. So let's do a display 1. So we have a really big heading here, and close that off. And this will be welcome to welcome. So just call it welcome page maybe. So remember, we have actually images that are going to be sitting underneath this. So this is just going to be sitting on top of the images that are going to be sitting underneath. Let's do another one here and do a class. So this one is going to be maybe like a subheading, some muted text, and we'll do Bootstrap for website from scratch. So let's go back out and see what this looks like so far. So there's our welcome page, and notice that it's not centered, so we do want to center it. So in order to do that, we can do the MX auto. So let me show you what that does. And this works with the margins. So this automatically centers your content. So we've got our welcome page, and yeah, that is rather large. So let's shrink that down a bit. And that's the good thing about Bootstrap. It really makes it easy to kind of make adjustments. And if something is too large, you just increase or decrease the number. So this is all available within the classes of Bootstrap. And with Bootstrap, we also have some text utilities. So let's say, for instance, this one here, I want to do text, and let's change this to uppercase. So the class is text uppercase, and basically that will transform the text to be uppercase. And again, that made it a little bit too large, so let's change that over to 4. So we also have the ability to do bold. If we want, we can do italics. We can also change the colors. So we've got what's called text light. We can do muted format of the text as well. So this is kind of a grayed out version. So a number of different options for text that we can add in. And typically this class is something like text muted. So let me show you what text muted does. So this one is going to get muted now. So when I refresh it, it's kind of this grayed out, and it's not as colorful, not as dark in color as the one that's above it, as the rest of the text. So again, with the headings, we had different options. So we can go anywhere from display 1 to display 4 as well. And we could also use headings. So we have the H1 options as well. So this is pretty good for now because, as mentioned, we do want to have a background image. So let's set up some classes. And this is not going to be Bootstrap. So you also, with Bootstrap, sometimes you don't have all of the styles that you need, and this is where you need to add in those customized styles. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build the style here within this template, then I can create a style sheet and I'm going to link out to it. So usually with the style, start out with body, so we can add in some default body font styles if we want, so font family or font colors. So sometimes you'll see font family here, and maybe for now we'll just start out with this. And we can always update that later on as well. So next, we want to select this header. So this is going to be our main header image content. So let's create a custom class for that. Header. So we'll call it header main or something like that. So we know that this is our main header. So header main is the class. And now for here, let's add in some defaults here. So I want to have a background image. So we have an option here to do a different background image if we want. So let's set that up first. And in order to get a background image, we need to use one of the placeholder image sources. So a good one to use is placehold it. So basically this gives you the ability to get an image. And if you want something a little bit more colorful, there's always Lorem Pixel, and this one will actually give you real images, but I find when I'm developing, sometimes they're a little bit slow to load. So again, depending on what you want to do, you can set up this one or you can use one of the default placeholder ones. So I'll just show you what the difference is. So let's set up that background. So we're going to set a background image. And for the background image, we need to have a URL. And that URL is going to be this one here. And it's okay if it's small, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to set it as cover, so that it's actually going to cover that full available area. And this is all what we're doing. We're customizing within our Bootstrap, because Bootstrap, some of the things, as mentioned, it doesn't always have everything that you might need. So in this instance, let's set up background cover, background size cover. And when you are customizing the CSS, make sure that you have your style sheet after the Bootstrap sheet so that you can even update some of the Bootstrap default classes as well. Let's set up the background positioning. So do a no repeat, because we're doing it as a cover. So cover will take up the full available width. Center. So before we go out, we actually have to move the image down to the bottom underneath where we're positioning it, so that the page actually knows where it's going to position. So it's got it centered there. And what we want to do, no repeat. So the order actually matters here. So let's do no repeat cover. So there we go. So now we've got our background image there. Let's update and add in a margin. We're going to add in a margin at the bottom. So let's do 75 pic margin at the bottom. Let's refresh that, see what that looks like. And also add in a background color. So margin bottom, background color. So in case our image doesn't show up, or in case we want to see the entire content there, so let's add in a background color. So that would be just a kind of a grayish color there. So the other thing that I want to add in as well is I wanted to add in some additional styling for the inner class here that's within this column. So let's give this one a name, and this is going to be just basically heading text. So this is customized, and because I want to add in some additional padding around this particular element, so that's why we need to identify it and select it. And let's also add in color. So we want to have white font. And let's do the padding. So the padding can be basically, we're going to have padding for the top and the bottom, and we're going to have no padding for the left and the right. So let's see what this looks like. So there we go. So now we can actually see the content a little bit better. And one other thing too is I want to add, let's refresh it so that we can get all of this in one basic area. So there we go. So now we've got our content, it's on top of the image, and it's what we had designed here within our original design. So ready to move on to the next step. So what I want you to do now is set this up within your own project as well. Go ahead and create this header section and then do some customizing of some of the CSS that's available on the page, creating a style. And we're going to also copy this into a CSS file after we've completed our basic template. So go ahead and build this out, create some heading text there, and then some text underneath it, so some subtext underneath it. And then you can also adjust this as needed. So you can make it smaller, you can make it larger, and the MX Auto is the bootstrap class that will center that content and apply automatic margins to both sides. So the next lesson, we're going to continue to build out our basic template and go ahead and build out the rest of the page structure. So mainly just the footer part of the content. So all of that is coming up.